Thank you for staying with Citizen TV. It's all about the by-elections 2025 watch, and results are trickling in. Some of them have already been declared. Moses Omondi Okoth has been declared as the MP-elect for Ugunja constituency after he garnered a total of 9,447 votes in the parliamentary by-election. The voter turnout stood at 24%, where 15,017 voters showed up. The race had a total of 10 candidates there. We also have Boyd Were, who's already been declared the MP-elect for Kasipul constituency. He garnered 16,819 votes. Independent candidate Philip Aroko managed 8,476 votes. UDA's Leo Amudende wins the Mbere North parliamentary by-election race. He garnered 15,802 votes against his closest challenger Newton Kariuki of the Democratic Party, who garnered 15,308 votes. In a hotly contested race there, Duncan Mbui of Chama cha Kazi finished third with 2,480 votes. Total valid votes were 33,947. We have declarations being made right now in, I think, in Malava as well. We'll take you there in just a short while. But my guests are already with me here in studio, starting from the upper deck. Stephanie Mora, who's a youth leader. Thank you for making time. Also followed right next by Otieno Mokaya, who's an advocate of the High Court. Thank you very much for making time. Joshua Kayo is the president, Kenya School of Law. Thank you very much for making time. We also have Cynthia Asienwa, an educator. Thank you very much for making time. And Juliet Nyabuto, a youth leader. Thank you very much for making time. And Mokaya, I'll start with you on this because you're the first one here. What is your reaction to these results? Are you surprised in any way, or did Kenyans vote exactly the way it was expected?
Thank you, Trevor, for hosting us today and allowing us to be the first to voice our reactions on the by-elections. I think the tragedy here is where Kenyans focused, is where we were forced to look at. We never looked at the candidates. Very few of us ever considered what they were voting, where they were voting, or even what they were voting for. We looked at the banners behind, whatever they represented in the national political landscape. We actually gifted narratives, these candidates. Incidences in the by-elections where even the campaigners never knew the names of the candidates they were voting for. And this is the tragedy of our politics, where we either vote to punish, vote to gift, or even vote to impress. Nobody ever listened to a manifesto. We had musical dances, we had party slogans, we had tribal cocooning. Nobody ever took their time to even listen to the abilities of the individual legislators or MCAs. Nobody took their time to listen to what the individual legislators had for them. We made this about 2027. We made this about how we want to look, the anger we want to project, or even the love we want to show for people who are not on the ballot. It's today or tomorrow when you realize you have voted somebody who can't speak one word in English, or who cannot project your problems, who cannot administer your CDF properly. Then you realize the party I voted for is not my member of parliament. When this person votes for a bill they have not read, then you realize I voted for a slogan that does not have anything to speak to my future. It's therefore a calling for us to really think of the value of your vote. Is it a tool to impress someone? Is it a tool to punish someone? Is it a tool to chase somebody home? Then why are we frustrated when these people close ranks to support the very people we voted to send home? Then it speaks into what we see our votes as. I also, allow me, Trevor, to question the people who were in the streets on 2024 June. Where were they in this voting matrix? Did we front ourselves to even vie? When you look at the pictures shown by media houses, did we see anyone below the age of 35 making any effort to make the voice we amplified so much in the streets, on Twitter, on TikTok, the hashtags we are pulling, did we go to push that hashtag on the ballot? Or are we there when there are lines being made for bribes to be given? Are we there to meet chaos and be tools of violence? What really is our place in the political landscape?
That's interesting analogy there. That's the reason why we gave you young people a chance to air your views first on this sort of conversation, because it was perceived that this would be a dress rehearsal for 2027. Do you see it as a dress rehearsal for 2027, or?
It is a dress rehearsal for everything wrong that will happen
for
in
everything
2027.
wrong?
Yes. That we won't turn out to vote, that we are not registering as voters, that the considerations and the lens through which we see candidates is wrong, misplaced, misguided, and based on everything that we should. We should not vote on party slogans. We should not vote on the color of the banner or the candidate behind. I believe we should vote on based on the competence of the very candidate we are voting for. We should even vote based on the name. There is no place, I think, Mbere is where we could hear the name of the candidate being repeated. Now, Karis, Wamudende, Wamudende, Wamudende. But in every other center or constituency, it was about, don't ashame me up there. We need you to support us up there. If you don't vote this one, you are killing me up there.
Yeah.
But where is the voice of the candidate? Who are you fronting us? And where is the capability, competence, even ability to do the mandate we are fronting them for?
Interesting. Stephanie, what are your thoughts on this? What are your immediate reactions from the results you've had so far?
Okay, thank you so much, Trevor. Unfortunately or fortunately, I'd say I think some of them are fair and some are unfair. The reason why I say this is because we have seen situations where people claim that candidates showed up to bribe them, that candidates, we have seen a lot of irregularities that happened during that time. And so we've even had a story of an old lady who went to cast her vote, and like I'd say, cast the vote for Stephanie, but they casted the wrong vote for her because she didn't actually know. I had it yesterday. And I don't want to say that every election was like that, but we have seen irregularities with the different candidates, and a lot happened. Bribery, that is why it caused a lot of violence, because people were not satisfied with whatever was happening. And we even got to a point where people were saying, if that person wins, they need to tell us where they got the vote from, because personally we did not cast our votes for that particular person. And I am directed to lean towards 80% fair, 80% unfair and 20% fair.
So, but in terms of the voter behavior, were you surprised? Because the voter patterns doesn't seem to deviate much from what we've seen over the years. Because one of the analysis was that this would be a dress rehearsal for 2027.
Yeah.
And like Mokaya was saying, that ideally, the young people's voices would have been heard. And if that was the case, then the results would have been slightly different.
Well, the thing is, I honestly feel like the same young people that we're talking about, just like he has said, we are more vocal on social media than we are on the grounds. And even in the stations that we were seeing you guys live streaming for us and seeing as the elections were going on, we didn't actually see young people. And it is true, this behavior has been there, but I'm afraid it's getting worse. And if this is a mirror of 2027, then we will be in a we'll be in a worse place in 2027, because if you are here right now and this is a mirror, because we only did we are expected to do more constituencies in 2027. We are expected to do more. We are expected to vote in senators, governors, all of them.
Yeah.
And if we had this amount of violence for these slots, you can only imagine what will happen in 2027. It means we are expected to be we are moving from
Bad to worse.
Yes, from bad to worse. In fact, worst. In 2027, things won't be well. The behavior has been there. It should be corrected, but I'm afraid things are getting worse.
Okay.
It is not being corrected.
Okay.
Yes.
Okayo, your immediate reaction?
Thank you, Trevor, and good morning, Kenyans. Trevor, I think there's a serious notion that the young people have disappointed the nation, that they have not participated in the by-elections, and personally, I think that's wrong. That's not true. My friends here have made reference to the people who came out to protest last year. First, IEBC reconstitution was done this year. And the law requires that when a position falls vacant, then the IEBC should conduct an election within 90 days. But that was not done because we did not have an IEBC. Immediately IEBC came into office, I think their first job in office was to plan for this by-election, and they announced that they're going to have the by-election on 27th of November. And the moment IEBC announces that there's going to be a by-election, then they cease to register any voter within the said constituencies. So since the 2024-2025 Gen Z movement and revolution, let me call it, we have not had voter registration. And a majority of the people who went to the streets have not been registered as voters. And mark my words, a majority, not all of them. So there's also need to ask those that did not vote but are already registered voters, what were they doing? At the same time, we must appreciate that there was voter apathy, and that even though the majority of people who voted are the older generations, quite a number of people did not vote. And so it concerns me that there are tens and hundreds of thousands of people who did not show up to participate in the elections, and yet they're registered voters, a majority of whom I believe are not young people. So even if we are talking about young people not coming out to vote, can we also ask why there's voter apathy? And my thought is that there's mistrust. People are wondering whether or not we should trust the current institution that is running the elections. And we should look at it from a very positive point and not point fingers to the young people, a majority of whom are just here wondering whether this IEBC is actually trustworthy or not, or whether the IEBC is capable and willing to deliver free, fair elections or not. So I think this was what English may call a bellwether, a pace setter for what is to come in 2027. It is a true reflection of how voting has been happening in the country. It is also a true reflection of the generations that come out to vote. I saw a 95-year-old mzee coming out to vote. Those are the people that have for a long time been coming out to vote. And I admire how they understand the power of their votes. So indeed it is a true reflection, but I choose positivity by saying that we have a chance, and that chance is the continuous voter registration that is happening right now. So we have to be patient with the young people and accept that they have not been given a chance to register. About 6.3 million people are expected to be registered by coming elections. So let's watch how it's going to happen, and let's also be patient enough to allow other people to register as voters.
But I find the analogy interesting, Kayo, there, because you say that you still see a positive trend. 8 million people did not vote.
Yes.
We have not seen any of them now.
Yeah.
They still did not vote. Young people, it is true, more than 6 million of them are expected to register as voters. They would not have taken part in this by-election anyway.
Yeah.
But wouldn't we have seen a commensurate high number of them registering anyway? The numbers are dismal. When you talk about somewhere like Ugunja, the turnout was 24%.
Yeah.
So how then do you say that the young people, there's nothing positive about the young people in terms of civic responsibility? You have also given your own example that you saw someone close to 90 going to vote. Where are the young people? That is the question we're asking. Because it was believed that the Gen Z revolution would have an impact even in 2027. If we didn't see it now, will we see it in 2027?
Yes.
Yet the registration is as bad as it is right now.
Yes. Thank you. We shall see that improvement, I can tell you. When we talk about dismal numbers, Trevor, we must accept that the voting patterns, or rather the outcomes, the numbers yesterday were very dismal. I mean, notwithstanding the age or the generation, the voting everywhere was quite, I think the highest probably turnout was about 60%, which was just one in the many other cases. So a majority of them was below 50. So we must appreciate that fact first, that even the other people did not come out to vote. In short, it is not the young people that did not come out to vote. All Kenyans did not come out to vote as expected. And that comes from mistrust. We have seen quite a number of people asking themselves whether we can trust this IEBC.
And the only way to trust it is to test the system, right?
Sorry?
The only way to trust the IEBC is to test the system.
Is to test the system.
Yeah, the solution is not to stay away from it. It's to test it and see if your voice is really hard, right?
Yes.
So then,
I think also that there was, the candidates themselves did not play a very big role, because sometimes you have to give people a reason to vote for you. I tend to think we cannot just be coming out to vote. You cannot just come out to vote because it is your civic duty. It is like trying to choose, you know, the worst among the worst, or rather the bad among the worst. So what do you then do? Okay. You cannot force yourself to vote if you don't see the reason to vote. If you do not see a candidate that befits, why should you vote? Okay. That is the question some Kenyans are asking. Because look at, I don't know whether it's good to give examples, but look at Mbeere North, where now we have a winner. All right? We have a winner whom people know that has been implicated in corruption scandals in hundreds of millions. And yet now is the winner, is the MP. And I made some joke yesterday saying, imagine a sick person like the lady we saw yesterday going to vote, and then your MP turns out to be some of these ones we see as you know, voting instruments in Parliament and not even reading the bills. So we also have to task our leaders to give us reasons to vote. We cannot be used as voting engines or voting materials, and yet we do not actually have a reason to vote. Okay. So moving into 2027, there will be need for us to actually, you know, sort of have quality leaders that we can feel that, yes, I am going to vote my leader. Okay. Otherwise, if there's no quality leader to vote for, why am I going to disturb myself to vote? I should spend that time sleeping if it is a holiday. If it is not a holiday, I should go to work and probably earn for myself and my family. Okay. Yes.
We'll have a conversation on the quality of leaders in just a short while, because you've talked about Mbeere North, and you said that the one person who's been elected has questionable character, which is a fair comment from your side. However, there were 9 candidates there. You cannot say out of all of them there was nobody was worth the time. Maybe they vote up, but it's a different conversation.
There's something that was said here, that there were no Gen Z candidates. There are very many Gen Z candidates. The problem is we give preference to the huge parties like ODM and UDA, and they have campaign financing. And I think campaign financing is also another issue we should talk about on this show.
But the same young people are the ones who form majority of the population. So if they really wanted one of their own, they would still vote in that person. It means that they still aspire to what their forefathers were fixed on. But let me hear what Cynthia has to say about this. Cynthia,
I'm honestly listening to the conversation, and I'm here thinking, if I cannot see anyone credible enough to be voted for, I'm sorry, I have Homer. If I don't see anyone credible enough to be voted for, then I should front myself, because I honestly feel like I'm the one who can be voted for. But again, the trajectory of politics in this country is a bit complex, and it's something that we may not be able to understand even as we head towards 2027. Because the only credible way of testing IEBC is going to vote, because you can never say that IEBC is incredible, this is just a new one. And the only way to test their competence is by going to the ballot to vote. At least these by-elections of yesterday had given us an opportunity to experience truly what IEBC is. Other people are saying it was unfair. There are regions like Kasipul where they are saying it was free and fair because of the margin between the winner and the loser. But again, politics in this country has been systemed by the people who we've found there already. For example, when the Honorable MP Ongondowere died, the ODM party fronted his son, and just by the mere fact that it's the ODM party that fronted him, that was enough reason for the people of Kasipul to vote him in, because we've seen how much power that the party holds and how much power that the party took to the ground. The likes of Gladys Wanga have not been sleeping. They've been on ground. Even when Baba died, they were still on ground campaigning for their own. So this points to party politics. There's a huge impact of how people vote that is vested on the party, that is vested on the party that you are in, that will now show whether you're going to be voted in or not. But something interesting, it's not even interesting, it's something worrying. And like all of us have fear, I have fear of the kind of politics that are mad with excessive violence. I did not like what I saw in Malava Neither did I like what I saw in Kasipul during the entire campaigning period. Why do people have to kill one another for the sake of politicians? Why do people have to maim one another for the sake of politicians? Maiming does not change the fact that there is going to be a winner and there is going to be a loser. There's going to be somebody that people will like. And in as much as in places like Malava, of course, we have government and we have opposition. And so everybody thought that there was a specific candidate that was going to win. But when the results are declared, it's somebody different. And that points to, there is no polling station on social media. The polling stations are on ground. We have to go to the ground. If you are a candidate who is campaigning, you have to campaign on ground. There's too much hype on social media, specifically on X and on Facebook, that I saw. So that makes people to have extra confidence that I am the one who is going to win because of the hype that they can see. But the voter is on ground. The vote is cast on ground. It can never be on social media. So sometimes we hype them a lot to the point that, you know, there were polls being done on social media and they were saying, you know, between Karis and Pamudende, who is going to win? And the vote will always go to Karis. But on ground, when results are declared, you find it's not even the person who was popular, because they may probably not have been popular on social media, but they were popular on ground because they were campaigning. Now this points to the whole Gen Z factor in the entire political system. How are young people going to change the trajectory? Of course, we've had demonstrations like for the anti-finance bill, but then again, there's much more than what we saw. There's much more than protest. There's much more than the whole hype. If we have to change the politics of this country, we have to look at it not like a form of superiority complex or something, but as a tool towards electing leaders who are accountable. If I know someone who is not accountable enough, who has a questionable character, the only way of having them out of the system is by going to cast your vote. And therefore, I want to urge young people, as we head towards 2027, you can register as a voter. That's the only thing that's going to matter. Of course, there will be issues like the elections are not free and fair, but if you didn't vote, you're not allowed to talk about it because you did not vote. Register as a voter. Try it in 2027. Let's call IEBC to accountability by voting. Once we have voted, then we can have a voice of calling them out. Okay,
that's very comprehensive. Let me hear what Juliet has to say about this. Juliet, what's your immediate reaction to this by-election results?
All right. My take is there's a lot of election. I'll put it in a whole bag or basket and call it election autocracy, in the sense that the election seems to be free and fair. There are bodies like IEBC and even the police who are supposed to ensure that the process is free, fair, and even safe. But now we're looking at a point where the police are causing intimidation. An example is Malava. Yesterday we had the politicians on ground stating I've been abducted, this is happening, and we didn't have the police come out fully and say we are protecting these people. Instead, it's them doing the abductions. So we are going way back to 2007. There was a lot of violence, and we're talking about voter apathy, and also we are talking about Gen Zs. For us, how do we ensure that in the next election, the young people are able to come out to vote? How do we kill the voter apathy? It's ensuring that these institutions are independent. A good example is what the court did and ensured that media is fully independent. They're able to broadcast. If there is violence, they're able to speak about the violence that is happening. These things encourages the young people to come out to vote, because we know at least independent institutions like the media will be able to showcase what is happening in the ground, that they'll not be interfered with by the state. Another thing is, again, with election autocracy is what we saw in Mbere, a whole deputy president going to the ground to push for an MP. It says a lot. It speaks intimidation. How does someone who is vying, say independent, be able to stand out confidently and say, I'm going for this, when a whole system iko kwa ground? And again, I'll say it, we saw it on social media that apparently people were being given sacks of food, mattresses, and all these things. How is a young person capable to come out and say, I'm vying for this seat, and I don't have the resources, but I want you guys to come and support me. When you're fighting with a whole state machinery that can issue out as much as 10,000 shillings per voter, apparently, and people will be able to say, we'll acha tukule ya serikali juu sasa we are tusaidie. Again, this is to the young people. We're being used as goons this time round. And it speaks a lot. Again, the institutions have failed us. If we were educated well enough, if we had jobs, we would not be being given tokens to even say, let me push for this kind of candidate, let me fight for this candidate, let me push for a certain narrative just because of maybe 500 shillings or 1,000 shillings. Again, the institutions have failed us, especially the police. We expected them to do a lot this time round. They have not done as much. Again, these by-elections were a litmus paper for 2027. If this is what I have seen as a young person, and this is what I saw in 2007, then I'd be scared to come out to vote in 2027 because I'll be like, why should I go out to vote if the police are not with me, if the media is compromised, if the IBC is compromised? I'd rather niende shere, the next day I wake up, nasa hangover, and whoever is president be president. So yeah,
it's an interesting analogy. Let's take a quick break here. We're back with still the same analogy from the young people in terms of the by-elections and the results. We're still keeping an eye on the announcements. As soon as they come in, we'll let you know, but we'll be back in just a moment.